Okay, imagine this. You're kayaking. It's night. You're gliding through the shadows of Angel Cliff Thathawada. Would you dare?
Hmm. That's quite the opening thought.
Right. Because this place, it's in Kon Thailand, and apparently it's just, well, absolutely stunning during the day.
But there's always a but, isn't there?
Exactly. Local whispers, they tell these darker tales, things that happen after sunset.
Okay, I'm listening.
Legends about a massive serpent, some kind of ancient presence.
Yeah.
And get this, stories of monks who went too close after dark and just disappeared.
Vanished. Just like that.
Yeah, like the place is holding its breath, keeping secrets hidden in those huge cliffs and quiet forests.
It sounds like one of those locations that really grabs your imagination. It's got that mix, hasn't it? Amazing natural beauty, but layered with this feeling, something uncanny.
Totally. It really pulls you in. And that's our mission for this deep dive, really. We've got the source material, articles, research, local stories, and we want to sift through it all. Find the key nuggets about Fathawada, the legends, and maybe why these stories stick to a place like this.
Makes sense. Exploring the beauty, the shadows, and the different ways we might understand it all.
Yeah. We're going to sort of paddle through it,
Okay.
figuratively speaking. So, where do we start? The place itself.
Let's do that. Let's unpack the setting first. Where and what is it, according to the sources?
Right. So, Sathawada, the sources place it in the Phu Pha Man district of Kon Kaen, near Ban Kwea Wan, Wang Sawap subdistrict specifically.
Okay.
And it's a bit of a drive from Kon Kaen City, about 100 kilometers out.
And the landscape, what's it actually like?
Oh, dramatic. You've got these huge limestone cliffs. That's where the name comes from. Apparently, Fathawada Angel Cliff.
Angel Cliff, interesting name.
Yeah. And it's all surrounded by really lush greenery. And there's this beautiful river that winds through, sometimes called the Two-Color River, I read.
Two-Color River, why is that?
Something about how different currents maybe look, different colors when they flow together. Sounds quite pretty, actually.
It does. So how do people usually experience this place?
Well, the main thing is getting out on that river.
Mm-hmm.
The sources talk about a kayaking and rafting route. It's about 9 kilometers long.
Okay, decent length.
Yeah, takes about 2 hours usually. And it's guided by locals, people who really know the river. You start from Ban Kwea Wan, which is just off Malawan Road.
Right. And during the day, it sounds like a great trip, out in nature adventure.
Totally, by all accounts. But here's where it starts to get a bit weird. Even in broad daylight, with all the beauty and activity, some visitors say they feel uneasy, like a definite feeling of being watched.
Oh, interesting, even during the day.
Yeah. And they mention how the forest feels strange, like too quiet, almost unnaturally quiet, as if the trees are listening in or something.
That's a classic creepy feeling, isn't it? When silence feels wrong.
Exactly. That feeling where your brain says nothing's there, but your gut is just screaming. And you mentioned the name earlier, Fathawada, Angel Cliff. What's the thinking behind a name like that, based on what we found?
Well, the name itself is a really important clue, I think. It suggests that for a long time, locals have seen this place as having some kind of spiritual side, connected to something powerful, maybe divine beings, angels, or other spirits linked to the cliffs.
So it sets the stage
Mm-hmm.
for thinking it's more than just rocks and trees.
Pretty much. It frames the landscape as a place that's, well, potentially imbued with spirit, not just geology and plants.
Okay, so you've got this beautiful, active place by day that still gives some people the creeps, hinting at something more. But the real spooky stuff, the legends that have really caught on, they seem to come out at night.
Yes, this is where the stories really take hold, when darkness falls.
So one of the big ones is this giant serpent.
Ah, the serpent. Tell me about that one.
Apparently, a monk was meditating near the river one night, and he sees this massive snake.
How massive are we talking?
The sources describe it with scales like polished black rock, obsidian, and glowing eyes. Huge. And the feeling was that it was ancient, really powerful.
Wow. Okay. That's quite an image.
It is. And then the stories get even darker. There are these, well, quite chilling tales about other monks.
Other monks, what happened to them?
They ventured too close to Fathawada, around that area, after dark,
Yeah.
and just vanished. No trace.
They're gone.
Gone. The local way of putting it, according to the sources, is that they were swallowed by the forest.
Swallowed by the forest. That paints a picture. Complete disappearance.
It's total nightmare fuel. Right. And the local whispers, they speculate this serpent might be more than just a big snake.
Like what?
Maybe a guardian spirit.
Yeah.
Or a naga, from Thai folklore, often linked to water. Or maybe something less friendly, something malevolent that claims people who trespass.
So a whole range of possibilities, from guardian to monster.
Pretty much. But here's a key thing the sources point out. Despite how vivid and persistent these stories are, passed down and everything,
Yeah.
there are apparently no official records. None. No missing monks reported, no documented sightings of giant snakes in that specific area.
Ah. So the stories are strong, but the official paper trail is empty.
Exactly. And that lack of official proof, that's actually a crucial piece of this whole puzzle. For a lot of people, it doesn't debunk the legends.
No, I could see how it wouldn't. It might even make it spookier, right? More mysterious.
Precisely.
Yeah.
It makes you ask, okay, why do these stories stick around so powerfully if there's no concrete documented thing to point to?
Which leads us down different paths, doesn't it? If it's not recorded events, what else could be driving these legends? Is it the place itself, our own minds, something cultural?
Yeah, the sources offer a few ways to look at it. Let's maybe start with the cultural side. What does Thai culture bring to this, based on what we read?
Well, Thai culture, as the sources describe, has this deep-seated belief that nature isn't just inert. It's alive, full of spirits, they call them Phi, and guardian entities.
The rivers, mountains, forests.
Mm.
They're not just places, they're inhabited.
In a way, yes. They're seen as realms, and figures like Nagas, these powerful serpent beings, they're really woven into the folklore, often connected with water, power, and guarding sacred spots.
Okay, so the giant serpent legend fits right into that existing framework, doesn't it? A powerful being linked to the river, maybe guarding the cliff.
It fits perfectly, and that name again, Fa Thawada, Angel Cliff, just reinforces that idea of a spiritual presence tied to the land. The sources even mention locals sometimes leave offerings there.
Oh, really? Offerings?
Yeah, which suggests an ongoing relationship, a sort of dialogue between the community and whatever spirits they perceive are there.
So the cultural worldview really provides fertile ground for these kinds of legends to grow and explain that atmosphere people feel.
Definitely. It offers a way to understand the world that's deeply connected to the landscape itself.
The sources also bring up the psychological angle, how our own minds react to places like Fatawada.
Right. Because think about it. Isolated places, really quiet places, especially ones with huge, imposing natural features like those cliffs. They're almost designed to trigger something primal in us.
How so?
Well, the sheer scale can make you feel tiny, insignificant. The silence can feel, well, unnerving rather than peaceful. Shadows move, your eyes play tricks. It's easy for your mind to jump to potential threats when you feel exposed or vulnerable.
Okay, yeah, I get that. Your senses are on high alert.
Exactly. And then you layer that basic human psychology, that fear of the unknown in a remote spot, onto Thailand's really rich tradition of ghost stories and folklore.
Ah, I see where this is going.
Yeah, it becomes easy to see how a place with a strong vibe, maybe a slightly unsettling atmosphere, could get a reputation. Haunted, mysterious, whatever you want to call it.
So the serpent stories could come from folklore, maybe mixed with, like, real sightings of big pythons, because they do have big snakes in Thailand,
Yeah.
just maybe exaggerated over time.
Could be. Or it could just be our fundamental human need to create a story and explanation for that feeling of unease, that sense of being watched.
So it circles back to this really interesting question the sources kind of pose. Is the haunting, or the mystery, is it actually out there? An external thing? Or is it mostly fueled from inside us? By our own minds, stirred up by the atmosphere and what we already believe?
That's a fascinating tension, isn't it? The external versus the internal. And this is where the sources bring in some really interesting ideas from Buddhist practice, especially relevant since the stories often involve monks.
Okay, like what?
They mention practices like kasina meditation. Have you heard of that?
Vaguely. It's about intense focus.
Right, exactly. Concentrating really hard on a specific object or element, like, say, a disk of earth or water or light or even just space itself. The aim is to reach these very deep states of concentration called jhana.
Okay. And these deep states, Jana,
Oh, yeah.
they're sometimes linked to developing special abilities. The sources mentioned apina.
That's the term, yes, abhijna. The traditional texts suggest that this kind of intense mental training through practices like kasina could potentially lead to the development of these, well, heightened abilities or extraordinary perceptions.
Extraordinary perceptions. What sort of things are we talking about, according to the sources?
Well, the text lists some pretty wild stuff, honestly, like the
Yeah.
ability to appear in many forms or make things seem hard or soft, create light out of nowhere, levitate.
Levitate, serious?
That's what's mentioned. Seeing things that are hidden, even passing through solid objects.
Wow. Okay, so the sources aren't saying this is what happened with the serpent or the missing monks.
No, not at all. It's presented more as a potential framework within Buddhist practice itself, a way that intense mental states, achieved through meditation, could be associated with experiences that seem extraordinary or supernatural to an outside observer.
So it offers a different lens, like how a monk deep in meditation in a remote place like Fathavada might perceive things differently or experience something profound related to their own mental state.
Precisely. It introduces the idea that the observer's internal condition, their level of concentration, their mental state, could be a huge factor in what they experience in a place like that. It's a perspective from within the tradition on how mind and reality or perception might interact in less ordinary ways.
That makes sense. And the sources also threw in some broader Buddhist sayings, fra sutra, right? Ones that touch on perception and challenges.
They did, like that really key one. Roughly, phenomena are preceded by the mind, or sometimes translated as mind precedes all things. It's foundational.
Meaning our experience starts in our head.
Essentially, yes. Our reality, how we perceive it, is fundamentally shaped by our mind, our thoughts, intentions, how we focus our attention. It all starts internally.
Okay. And there was another one,
Right, the wise train themselves.
a reminder about self-discipline.
Exactly. That achieving wisdom, self-control, resilience, whether in meditation or just facing life's challenges like fear or uncertainty, it takes conscious effort. Practice.
Makes sense. Then there was, yes. Hatred is calmed by non-hatred, or love, or kindness.
So dealing with negativity by not being negative back.
That's the core idea. It's about transforming difficult states internally rather than just reacting. Finding peace or balance, even when things feel threatening or hard, it emphasizes the power of your internal response.
And one more that felt relevant to, facing something scary, like maybe a spooky cliff or a legend.
That one translates to something like, one should strive until one's goal is achieved.
Perseverance, basically. Yes. Keep going, keep making the effort. So taken together, these sayings offer these different angles from the sources. They point to the mind's power in shaping how we see things, the need for self-training to handle fear or delusion, and the value of just keeping at it. It suggests maybe the real mystery of Fathavada isn't just out there, but also in here, the internal journey.
That's a cool perspective. And speaking of local flavor, we talked about that feeling of being watched. There was that futai phrase the sources mentioned.
Oh, right.
What does that mean again?
It's like keeping an eye on you or just watching. It really captures that specific unnerving feeling some visitors describe, doesn't it? That sense that something unseen is maybe peering out from the cliffs or the trees.
Totally. Puts a name to that creepy, crawly feeling. And speaking of things woven into the culture, but maybe a bit lighter, the sources had that joke about the Naga. You remember it.
I do. Where is the Naga? Oh, it's on the side of the matchbox.
Yes, Odin. It's so simple. But it kind of shows how these mythical figures, like Nagas, are just part of everyday life in Thailand, right? Even on a matchbox.
It really does. It sort of grounds the mythic in the ordinary, just for a second. Highlights that blend of the sacred and the everyday that you often find.
Okay, so we've covered the stunning place, the chilling legends, the lack of hard proof, the cultural backdrop, the psychology, even these Buddhist ideas about mind and perception. Now, what if someone listening is actually intrigued? Maybe they want to see Fathavada for themselves. What do the sources say about visiting?
Well, they give some practical info. Getting there involves taking Maliwan Road from Konkan, heading towards Phetchabun. You're looking for the turnoff near Ban Kue Wong.
Right, Ban Kue Wong. That's where you find the locals who run the kayaking and rafting trips.
Exactly. And that 9-kilometer river route, it's important to note it's typically done with these local guides. They know the river, they know the area, they handle safety aspects.
Good point.
Yeah.
And probably wise, especially if the legends make you a little nervous, to stick to daytime trips and maybe go with friends.
Absolutely. Sunshine and company are often good antidotes to spooky feelings.
And if you wanted to maybe hear more local stories firsthand, The sources suggested talking to people in nearby villages, like Banwang Mon.
Yes, that could offer more person perspectives. They also provided contact details for the Phu National Park office. The phone number is 043-001-753, and the email is fufamen@hotmail.com.
So that office might be another place to ask questions, get official info, or maybe even confirm that lack of official reports we talked about.
Could be. Getting information directly from people who live and work there often adds a really valuable layer to understanding a place like Fatawada.
Definitely. So Fatawada, it really is this fascinating spot, isn't it? A real deep dive into layers of incredible nature, cultural stories, and just how we perceive things.
It truly is. It's got that powerful combination, breathtaking natural beauty alongside this persistent kind of unresolved mystery.
And that central puzzle is still there, isn't it? What's the real story behind the giant serpent and the monks who vanished? Is there something genuinely external hiding in those shadows?
Or is it mostly a potent reflection of deep cultural beliefs about spirits, nature, and guardians?
Or is it largely happening inside our own heads? Triggered by the place, our psychology, our own internal state?
Which brings us back to those Buddhist ideas about the mind, thinking about those teachings from the sources. Could the real mystery of Fatwada lie less in what's supposedly seen or experienced out there, and more in the actual state of the person doing the seeing, their mind, their perception?
Like that feeling of being watched, the shadows seeming to move?
Mhm.
Are those external events or internal interpretations shaped by fear, belief, the whole intense atmosphere?
It's a compelling thought.
Or maybe thinking about that saying, one should strive until one's goal is achieved. Perhaps exploring a place like Fatawada, facing that unknown, whether it's an external legend or an internal fear, is a way of striving, a way to build resilience, understand ourselves a bit better.
That's another way to look at it, the challenge itself being the point. So the question remains for you, listening. What do you think is really going on in the shadows of Fatawada?
Is it spirits, the power of the mind, ancient snakes, or something else entirely?
Definitely something to chew on.
Yeah.